identifying those key program requirements that I just touched on, and how do they reflect partner value. I chatted there about things like, revenue, um, newer things now that will be in the mix are around, how do I manage or measure my customer engagement, to forward looking around pipeline. So yeah, so Kelly, I'd love to get some of your thoughts on what you see as the key program requirements for dealing with today's partner ecosystem. So yeah, I'd love to just share your thoughts, Kelly, please.
Yeah, no problem at all. So, I'm actually in the living and breathing stage right now of launching, as I've mentioned, a partner program. But I've designed two regional ones previously and one global one. And I can honestly say not one size fits all. They're all very different for different reasons. Um, when I look at it and sit back and have a time to kind of digest, you have an opportunity, and I feel like in a unique position right now with Rico, that I can kind of create something that is new, but the brand is very established. Having not had any EMEA partner program before, we had very local ones until this point. Um, the questions you're posing are super important because it's enabled us to sit back and actually digest looking at the ecosystem today. So we know that you get those typical common requirements that are very much repeated across many programs. Revenue is always a barometer, training, certifications, renewals, they all come up all the time. But also then you have to look at those business requirements as well, and really that partner engagement model. So looking at the go-to-market, looking at the product orientation, looking at the individual service kind of offerings. Um, so, for me and for us, where we've been at, and historically what I've had an opportunity to implement, these pose really important questions of what requirements are really important for when you're designing or you're evolving an existing partner program. So you really need to consider that channel ecosystem that you're catering for more now with more nuances. And they kind of look like, great numbers of partners and the partner types that are very different that you've mentioned to what they were previously. Back when I, first started launching a partner program, you really need to consider how partners sell to their customers. So selling motions, and what I mean by that is, are partners set up to resell? Are they co-selling, or are they being completely self-sufficient, or are they co-delivering with you? And these selling motions are hugely important now today in the ecosystem. And then the third one, there's an overwhelming desire from partners to become more enabled by you as vendors. So they're looking for you to really help support them, and having, huge amount of streamlining happening within the partner channel. They're really wanting you to focus with them on lead gen and new business opportunities, because they're the types of golden nuggets that are really going to make the biggest difference. So when you are looking at requirements from a programmatic perspective, you've really then got to consider, those three areas. So I can take an example. You can take a resell partner selling that on-premise solution. Then the requirements like revenue we talked about, some of the loyalty, the compliance, the deal registrations, they're key to the program. But then you take the same reseller, and that time selling a cloud solution versus on-premise, it adds additionally, you keep the importance of revenue, loyalty, compliance, deal opportunities, but now comes into effect customer adoption and activation rates and renewals. So you really have to consider, the fundamentals as well as those additional requirements. So just one of the things that I can give as an example at Rico, um, having now lived and breathed this from the beginning when I started 12 months ago, is that, we really believe you've got to look through the lens of the partners. So when you're designing and building those levering or tiering programs, you really need to think about it through their lens. So for us, you've got to think about collaboration. You've got to ensure the program isn't asking the partners to jump through multiple hoops, because that's extremely frustrating for them. So it's all around that shared customer journey. You want to be able to drive simplification, because you've got to keep it simple. That ease of doing business is one of the highest parameters that come out when you run any partner satisfaction. You can't afford for it to be too complicated. Partners will switch off. They've got far too many other vendor programs to contend with. And then finally, innovation. You've really got to focus on the partner capabilities and their competencies based on today, but also factor in their intent for the future. And you've got to use data and behavioral insights to be able to help support that. So definitely invest and understand that partner ecosystem and their potential. And then finally, revenue is just one lens. It's not the whole picture. So definitely make sure that, when you're looking at partners and you're looking at requirements, you factor in that collaboration, that simplification, and the innovation, and don't just look at the revenue lens. One of the other requirements that I think is really important is business planning. And that's really a hand in glove kind of relationship partnership with the partners. You need to agree that intent. You need to be able to map out the direction, the joint goals and objectives, and then collectively articulate what the rewards and recognitions are, because the partners want to know what's in it for me. So hopefully what I've just explained is kind of giving you a bit of a flavour in terms of key programme requirements, how important they are, looking at the different partner types, the products and the sales motions. And what we think, and what I have ultimately followed through from a methodology, is without these types of tiering leveling programs, it's very difficult to manage the variance. And it's one reason to really, drive that important, because it provides differentiation and you're able to scale.
That's super, Kelly. Yeah, very comprehensive response. So thank you very
No worries.
much. Yeah, no, that's great. And I agree with, everything you said. There's a lot going on there. A lot of variables to cover, and even to double down on the point you made about, then you have to deal with the regional variations of all of the above as well, because you know, to get to the gold tier in EMEA might require less revenue to get to the gold tier in North America, and less again in Asia and so on. So, adding that zonal effect to it as well. Um, Dana, Claire, anything you wanted to chime in on that point as well? Anything there?
I really thought everything that Kelly said resonated. Coming from a similar position when I joined Absolute, needed to build our EMEA partner program, and definitely the regional aspect was a consideration for myself, but also the maturity of the partner ecosystem, and not assuming that globally partners are all in the same place was a really key consideration for myself when developing our program. But yeah, agreed with everything that Kelly said. Thought it was great.
Yeah, no, yeah. Sorry, Danny. Yeah, no, well said, Claire. Because it's, I often use this term. All partners are important, but not all partners are equal, right? Um, and you have to have that ability to differentiate. Like, that is at the foundation or the crux of why do people do tiering or leveling programs. You have to have that ability to differentiate, and that's ultimately what it kind of steers you into be able to do, and then treat those partners differently. Right down to the point Kelly made about, I'm going to have a business plan for my top tier partners. I can't do 1,000 business plans, but I certainly can do 100 business plans, etc. So sorry, Diana, you were trying to come in.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we were just talking about differentiation and the partner's ability to differentiate, really the reason for requirements, and we also like to look at it from what are they're differentiating to the customers. So it's what do the customers care about, and how do you create leveling or requirements within the program that make it that the customers care about. So we, there's of course, we're a consulting company. There's 4 C's that are around competency, the partner's competency, in terms of success rates, like customer success, coverage, like are they in my area? Do they cover Palo Alto? Are they credible, or do they have the capabilities? So the training part that Kelly talked about. And then their capacity in terms of size, right? So large companies like Ricoh like to work with larger partners. Small companies like PartnerPath like to work with smaller partners, right? So just you can't be a large company and then try to get a smaller partner to it might overwhelm them. So we take it from the customer lens as well and say, because it's all about requirements and leveling is all about partner differentiation. And that's, we say, how do the customers look at it, and they're the only ones we're trying to make differentiation for, right? In terms of the customers being able to make a good decision on who to partner with.
Okay, super. Okay, so I think you might want to do another poll question, Brenda, before I move on to the next topic. So yeah, thanks very much, Kelly. Very insightful.
I do indeed. Thanks, Kenneth. So this time we're asking, do you offer a tier-based leveling program? For example, silver, gold, platinum. So yes or no. And if the answer is none of the above, please specify what your program is based on. There should be a text field there for you to fill in if you'd like to. And while we give people just a moment to do that, I'm going to put a question to you, Kelly, if that's okay, just in relation to the requirements. Lloyd came in just to ask, how important is a certified training program to engage and support the partners in the program?
Yeah, I think there's two lenses I'm going to use here that certifications have a play. There's definitely one from an onboarding perspective, where I think we as vendors want to try and help upskill our partners where there is an appetite. So I definitely think there's a lot that we should be investing around supporting partners through, a broader sense of solutions and upskilling and skills across, different types of technology. But then on the flip side, from a portfolio perspective, when you within the program, I think that a curriculum pathway to enable the partners to drive growth and again upskill them from a selling motion between, are the partners today have the capabilities to sell, or do they have the capabilities to resell? And resell is very different because they've got some either pre or post sales capabilities operating within their organization. So there's a different type of kind of certification pathway that you want to take them on. So yes, in essence, for me and all of the programs I've been heavily involved in, certification and training is key, and it should be part of a pathway. But what it shouldn't be is something that's checking a box. You want to make sure that the content is relevant. It's always updated on a regular basis from an onboarding and a portfolio perspective, because it needs to be relevant, and you set those minimum requirements.